Hey everybody, so thought we'd take some time to do a tech tip on water heater maintenance. Now there's a lot of videos out there on how to do all of these parts, changing out the anode rod, changing out the heating element. I chose to do this video because after our last camping trip, when I went to get the camper set up, this happened. All right, so we are at the end of our first day here in Savannah, and a couple things I wanted to mention. One, I think I did a dumb thing, and I didn't realize I did it until I turned the water on hot just to see if the water was warm yet, and it wasn't getting warm. And I realized we had winterized this camper after we put it up from the last trip, which meant we did the bypass on the tank, on the water tank, the water heater. I turned on the electric heater for the water tank, not realizing the water tank was empty because I had bypassed it and I had drained it. So we filled it back up. It probably sat for 3-4 hours with the electric heater on and no water in the tank. So we'll find out here in a little bit if I damaged the electric element of our water heater. So maybe replacing that. So lesson learned: if you take your camper out for the first time after winterizing, be sure to undo the bypass on your water heater and fill that tank up before you turn your heating element on. So as I stated, and I actually pointed this out during our camper walkthrough video, but on our water heater, the switch for the electric heating element, because most RVs can heat via electric or gas. My switch for the electric is on the outside. In fact, I'll show it to you. It is right here. And as I said in that video, I didn't realize the water heater was empty because we had it bypassed for winterizing, and I forgot to unbypass it after we hooked the water up and everything, and I'm pretty sure I have burnt out the electric heating element. So what I want to show is there are some things that at the beginning of every year, at least once a year, you should check. Now again, this is not going to be a complete how to show you how to pull out every bolt, how to take everything out. But there are things that you probably want to check at the beginning of every season. And I can tell you there's a lot of people out there camping that don't know to do this. I'm one of them. In our previous campers, I didn't know to maintain these things once a year. I basically turned it on. If it worked at the beginning of the year, I was good. So there's a lot of things to check that will keep the life of your water heater going. So let's dive into again. I'm not meaning for this to be a complete how-to. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube on how to do all the things I'm going to show. I'm going to kind of partially show them, but on this water heater, now yours may be a little bit different, but you should have pretty close to the same setup. This bolt right here is for the anode. It's a sacrificial metal anode in the tank that keeps the water from deteriorating the lining of your tank. It'll attack the anode instead of the tank. And when I pull this out, I'll compare it to a brand new anode, and you'll get to see how much deterioration happened in just 1 year. This should be changed out every year to keep the inside of your tank safe. Behind this plastic piece is where the electric heating element is, and that's what I'm going after today. This pipe right here, this is the gas line, the burner tube. I will say in previous campers, I've found that dirt daubers over the winter time or in the spring love to build nests and stop this thing up with mud. So it's, again, every camper is going to be a little different, but usually it's just a handful of screws or bolts, and you can take this tube off and check to make sure it's clear. Definitely a good thing to do at the beginning of every season. So one of the things I want to show is the bypass on your water heater. If you winterize your own camper, one of the things you want to do before putting antifreeze in it is bypassing the water heater. And I have this access panel right here that gets me to the back side of my water heater. And I'm going to try to show it, but mine came with, and most come with, a bypass switch. I'm hoping it's not too dark in there. But right here is the bypass switch. If I flip that up, the water heater is bypassed. So in the bypass position, when I turn the water on in the camper, the tank will not fill up. And that's what got me with my electric heating element. If your camper does not have, if you get an older camper and you do not have a bypass switch on there, you can buy a bypass kit. You know, they don't cost a whole lot. You can get them off of Amazon, and you could put a bypass valve on your water heater. All right, so I'm going to start with the anode rod, which is right here. I carry a 1 1/16 inch socket with me in the camper to pull this out. Now, bit of safety, since I'm not camping, the camper is not hooked up to electricity, so I don't have to worry about it. But before you start working on this, you would want to make sure that your power is off. Preferably you're unplugged from the campground or from wherever you're at. Me, I'm completely unplugged because there is no electricity here. And I'm going to release the pressure valve up here to take the pressure off the tank. And then I can unscrew the anode rod. And if you do winterizing, this will be part of your winterizing maintenance. You want to open up this anode rod to drain your tank. While my tank continues to drain behind me, I think you can see it back there, I want to show the difference in the anode rods. So this is the anode rod I just took out. It's not bad. This is after 1 year, and you can see the pitting in this rod. You can see it's really deteriorated around here. But this is what it's going to do. It's going to attack this rod instead of doing that damage to the inside of your tank. This is what a new rod looks like. Now, I'm actually happy with this rod. It still has some more life on, so I'm going to put the old rod back in, and I'm going to save this one for maybe at the end of the camping season. I'll switch it out. But if you pull this out and it's not thick like that, if it's just a bare metal pole, you need a new anode rod. If I was doing my annual maintenance on this, now that I have this opened and I have access into the tank, I would want to clean that out, because as you saw from that anode rod, it starts deteriorating. Well, all those bits of metal and flakes settle in the bottom of the tank, and you want to flush that out. You don't want that to build up in the tank. Last time I did it, I just kind of stuck my garden hose up in there and flushed it out. You can actually buy, and this came off of Amazon, it's a little attachment that goes on the end of your hose. Again, I'm at the storage area, so I don't have a hose. But you would just hook this up to your hose. This goes into the tank, turn it on, and let it flush the tank out. And you can kind of turn it and shoot that water all up in the tank. And you'll see a lot of debris coming out of that tank. If you haven't done this ever with your camper, or if it's been a couple years since you flushed out the tank, you'll be surprised how much crap comes out of there. Since I'm not changing my anode, I'm going to put this one back in. The tape on it is still in good shape. I'm going to slide that back in. And again, this is something you should be taking out definitely at the beginning of winter time if you winterize your camper. If you live in an area where you have to winterize, to drain your tank. All right, snug that in there. Close my pressure valve. With my camper, this plastic cover that's covering the electric heating element, it's a 1/4 inch nut driver. Well, I can get in there, and hopefully I'll be able to access this without removing the tube, the burner tube. Some models, this tube is lower and it's right in front of that cover. now that I have access to this, if you suspect that your electric element is burned out and you have a multimeter, you can test it by taking one of the wires off again, verify that you have no AC electricity hooked up to your camper. So I can take one lead off. And with one of the leads off, I can test this, and I'm getting nothing. It is a complete open, which tells me my element is bad. I definitely burned it out when I left the electric element on with the tank empty. To get this element out, there is a tool you can buy. Pick this up at Lowe's, $9. It's almost the exact same type of electric element you would get in your home water heater. So the same little tool. I can't remember what size socket this is, but if you had a deep socket, you could use that too. But this just unscrews. It's hard to tell. Usually you can see a spot on these where they burnt out. I can't see it on this one, but I know because we measured it with the multimeter that this one is definitely bad. Here's the new element. Be sure to put the gasket on there and it should just screw back in. And we'll test this one before we get it hooked up. Yeah, about 0.011. Whereas on that other one, we were getting no reading at all, so it was definitely open. So I had burnt that one out. All right, we're all hooked back up. We are good to go. Now, something else to point out, if you're having trouble with your water heater, behind this plastic cover are the thermostats. There's an AC thermostat on one side that goes with the electric water heater, and a DC thermostat on the other side that helps the gas pilot light function. And there are reset buttons, and these little rubber grommets here, you can actually push that reset button. If you suspect a problem with your water heater, that might be an easy thing to come try. Is just come out here and see if you could push on one of those buttons and see if that gets you going. But that's your basic, at least for what I do now that I've learned, that is my basic water heater maintenance. Check your anode rod, flush out the tank, change the anode rod if it's extremely pitted out. And if you, like me, you've burned out your electric heating element, pretty simple to test with a voltmeter, or they're like 15, 16 bucks, they're pretty cheap. Just buy a new one, unscrew it, put the new one in, and should get you going again. So hey everybody, thanks again for joining me with another tech tip. Again, I am not an RV mechanic. Been camping for a long time. I don't mind to dive into things and tear things apart to try to fix them myself. So got a lot of DIY education when it comes to campers and working on them, and happy to share those. But if I've done something different, if you do something different, let me know in the comments. I'm always looking to learn new stuff about the campers. I am constantly watching YouTube videos. And again, if you have any questions on anything that I did that I didn't go into the detail of, go out there and do a search. You will find tons of great material on YouTube on how to fix really anything on your camper. And if you have a water heater setup that's a little different, it doesn't look like mine, and you're having trouble, you should be able to find it on YouTube. Somebody's got a video out there of how to fix it. But again, thanks for joining. And if this was helpful, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our link, and we're going to keep these videos coming out. If there's something on your camper that you want to know more about, if you've got a problem on your camper, leave me a comment, and I will try to do a video on that. I love showing different parts of the camper. Again, over time, I've ended up working on a lot of different systems in a camper. So if you've got questions on any of your systems, let me know. And if I think I might be able to help, I'll put a video up for you. Y'all have a great day. Thanks.